It would be hard to find a better symbol of the global transformation wrought by the pandemic. The massive Jacob K. Javits Convention Center, the teeming hub of retail industry optimism and anticipation only 3 months before, had now been transformed into a U.S. Army field hospital, ready to treat thousands of overflow patients in the worst global pandemic in more than 100 years. None of the big show's attendees could have envisioned that the themes, concepts, and conversations being exchanged there would, in hindsight, seem so trivial relative to what was coming. Like reveling passengers on the Titanic, we saw no omens or warnings that the global retail industry was about to collide with an obstacle so large and immovable that it would rip the industry from stem to stern. Retail circa 2019. Even as I write this, in the thick of the pandemic, 2019 seems a remarkably distant and, dare I say, nostalgic memory for the global retail industry. That's not because things in 2019 were great. They weren't. But rather, it's because things in 2020 became so horrible by comparison. In fact, the primary industry storyline in 2019 was one of slowing global growth. Trade wars, tariffs, geopolitical tensions, brands struggling under mountains of debt, rumblings of an impending global recession, all of these took their toll on the industry, resulting in weakening business expectations and outlooks for the coming year. In turn, this softened global demand for durable goods and resulted in lower domestic outputs across almost all markets, including China. In the United Kingdom, for example, 2019 marked the worst year on record for the nation's retail industry. A combination of anxiety surrounding Brexit and a continual drumbeat of high street closures both served to shake consumer confidence. Even the U.S. economy, with what at the time was historically low unemployment, bargain basement borrowing rates, and a recent round of income tax cuts, could muster only a 0.3% year-on-year increase in retail sales in all of October, November, and December. The golden quarter, as it's often hailed in retail, had lost its luster. Many brands clung to life, eking out just enough to get by, but not nearly enough to rekindle relevance with shoppers. Ailing channels such as department stores struggled against what seemed an eternal battle to redefine their value in a world that had clearly moved on. By October of 2019, according to a Credit Suisse report, U.S. domestic store closures numbered 7,600, the most ever recorded in the first 9 months of a given year since the company began tracking closures 25 years earlier. The report called out particularly anemic performance in the U.S. apparel sector as being one of the primary underlying drags on the sector as a whole. But suffice to say, U.S. retail in general wasn't breaking any records. Far from it. One of the few bright lights in the economy for those with the capital to benefit from it was the stock markets, with every major index riding high. The S&P 500 gained 28% in 12 months. The Nasdaq Composite Index posted an even loftier 35% year-on-year lift, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed the finish line 22% better than it did in 2018. The disparity between the nosebleed-inducing gains in stocks and the stubborn stagnation in retail highlighted a growing and potentially fatal disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street.